Welcome to my realm. Today, I am actually really happy to be putting this episode out into the world. I've wanted for quite some time to get an opportunity to speak with Nicole Smith because she is a certified senior advisor and she, in real life, deals with parental units that have dementia and also counsels and writes about and does a lot of work in support of that. Nicole is a certified senior advisor and an active author, speaker, and educator. She is an advocate in the dementia and elder care planning spaces. She has become an expert through lived experience in navigating the legal, financial, medical, and emotional aspects of caregiving. And just so many of us listening to this, she is sandwiched between caring for three parents with dementia and five children, which Nicole, I kind of love because so many of us who, on butterfly days, this is exactly where we are. We're between those two tough places. I have so many women in my life right now with parents who are receiving dementia diagnoses. And we are really excited to learn from you about what do we need to know? Because since you've been doing it, for starters, where would you start? If someone's just learned about diagnosis, what should they know? What should they think about?
Take a breath
Mm.
and start to build your team because it's a daunting diagnosis, but everybody's a little different. Every family's different. Every prognosis is different. And you've just got to start to build your team. What I like to tell people is I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a social worker, I'm not a financial advisor, but I am a communicator and a delegator. And those are the skills that I use to build my team to figure all this out. Because I had three parents, my mom, my stepmom, and my dad, all diagnosed with different forms of dementia within the same year. And we were all living in different states across the
Oh,
country.
wow.
So yeah, dementia was not on my radar at all. I didn't really know anything about it, but I've spent the last 5 years in a deep dive in dementia and caregiving and figuring out all of the stuff.
Wow. Right before I jumped on this call, I was talking with, one of my dear sisters, and she nursed caregave both parents through dementia journeys. And I said to her, okay, after everything you went through, what should I ask her? What should I know? And she said, I love it because she said exactly what she said. She said, I went through all of those years with my hair on fire, just responding to crises and one after another. And she said, if she could help them know how they could come up with a plan or how they could best navigate it. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, I like to say, caregiving is overwhelming. And also the good thing is there's a lot more resources out there, but navigating through those resources is just as overwhelming. What's the good, what's the
Mm.
bad, what's helpful. So that's what I did in my book is I kind of curated all that different stuff and said, okay, this is a good website, this is a good book, this is a good podcast. These are the resources that I find are helpful. And but the number one thing I tell people is to make sure you have powers of attorney for financial and for medical for yourself, your parents, and your kids over 18. Because
Legal first.
yeah, that's the first thing you need to do. And there are websites out there, but just if you can make the investment in hiring a real live attorney and preferably an elder law attorney or an estate attorney in your state because state law is so different. So the financial power of attorney, and then there's so many other things that can affect all this, but those are the two documents you kind of need to have the authority to kind of help your parents. And that's hard because we as younger kids, we're not used to talking about our parents' 401ks and their financials and their bills, and
Mm.
their health care and their pills. And so it's a disconnect where, the older generation keeps that stuff closer to the vest. And as a child,
Yeah,
you didn't want to be invasive, but
right.
I just got bolder and bolder and bolder as I got more frustrated. And I was like, I don't care how you feel about this. We gotta get this thing going. And so But, that took months and months and months of trial and error and making copies and making appointments with it was so much. It's like my book reads like a suspense novel.
As you try to get to the heart of it. Well, your book is Diagnosis Dementia, and this is your guide to begin the legal, financial, medical, and emotional conversations to make critical decisions in caring for aged loved ones. And the subtitle alone is glorious because it feels like in the midst of the storm that might help give me some signpost to go forward, not necessarily to know what the journey will be, because we know when you know one person with dementia, you know one person with dementia, right?
Right. And fortunately, so my parents had the mental side of things, but physically they're very healthy. So we haven't had
Mm.
the gazillion trips to the ER. They have had some falls, but like not, we don't have to deal with COPD or hypertension or heart disease or kidney failure, like all those big chronic diseases. So I was at a forum recently, and this top neurologist from New York, she said 98% of all Alzheimer's patients have a comorbidity. 98%, which is
Oh, of
huge.
course, because of the age.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the age is the biggest risk factor for Alzheimer's and dementia, and a lot of people still use Alzheimer's and dementia interchangeably, which is not true. Dementia is the umbrella term, and Alzheimer's is what the majority have. So my mom has Alzheimer's. My stepmom has aphasia, which is what Bruce Willis has, and my dad has normal pressure hydrocephalus, which is what Billy Joel has. And there's three kinds of that. So luckily, my dad was able to have surgery and they put a shunt in his brain to drain the fluid. And now he's absolutely doing amazing. He's 83 and doing
Wow.
amazing. But my mom and stepmom are both in memory care right now.
Wow. Wow. You know, one thing that hits me as I'm listening to you is that, and I struggle with this as a doula, not struggle in a bad way, but it's something you grapple with, is that the medical community is a culture. They have a language, they have a way that things are done, and it's not, if you're not involved in it, you don't know. Do you often feel disenfranchised in trying to navigate that?
Yeah. So when I talk about things, I said becoming a caregiver is like learning four new languages simultaneously while under duress with legit life and death consequences. So you're learning the financial lingo, you're learning the medical lingo, you're learning the legal lingo, and you're learning the caregiving lingo. So it
Holy
is,
cow.
yeah, I mean, fortunately, I have my aunt who is a nurse, so she helped with that piece. My husband's a
Hmm.
CPA, so he helped with the taxes, the finances. I just got another letter from Social Security. Mom has, IRMA again, like all these acronyms and charges, and it's just crazy. And then paying for it all is horrifying. But fortunately, my mom had a big house in Los Angeles that she sold, and so that pays for her care. But I mean, every single cost has gone up for 2026, like astronomically.
Wow. So does that was something I was going to ask you because I'd read something about it. So a lot everybody has Medicare, right? If you're a US citizen in your hair, you have Medicare. Is dementia care covered, or how or what parts of it are covered? Help me out here.
No, that's the big fallacy out there. Medicare does not cover long-term care. So, yeah, so if you have dementia, there's no, you don't have it. Medicare is designed to pay for like hospital bills and different things like that. And I had to find out the hard way. So when my mom signed up for Medicare, if you don't sign up for a drug plan when you're 65, then you have to pay the penalty for the rest of your life. Well, she was 65. She was healthy. She's wasn't a big med person, again, physically healthy. So she never signed up. So then when I took over 15 years or whatever, 10 years later, now I'm paying the penalty. I'm trying to pick the drug plan. So yeah, no, Medicare does not pay for long-term care. There is a new program called the GUIDE program, called
Hmm.
Guiding an Improved Dementia Experience. And that is wonderful, but you cannot be on an Advantage plan to qualify for the GUIDE program. So about 50% of Americans are on an Advantage plan. Some are on original Medicare, which is what my mom is
Hmm.
on. So it gets very confusing very, very fast.
Do you
Very.
have to get an expert for that, or a a
For the
guide?
guide
I mean,
program or for Medicare?
well, no, I was thinking for a guide. Is the guide program is a type of Medicare program that's
It
offered? Is
is,
that
yes,
correct?
yes. And so you can call. We're going to talk about Daughterhood, but Daughterhood also partnered with Pocket RN, which is a national provider. So if you go to pocketrn.com, they have information about the guide program. So sometimes it's local providers that are helping with the guide program, but then there's also national providers, and then they will get you with a nurse and a physician and an evaluation and figure all that out. But the one thing that when you start, if you don't have an Advantage plan and you want to use the guide program, which is very helpful, one of the first things they're going to ask you for is that power of attorney for medical. So you have to have the power of attorney for medical done. So I mean, again, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back with all this stuff, unless you have your documents in order and ducks in a row.
If your person is advanced, or God help you, cantankerous about giving you a medical power of attorney, what is your recourse? Does it depend state to state?
It does depend state to state. And this is what happened with us with my mother. She was just cognizant enough. Alzheimer's and dementia doesn't just turn off the brain. It like short
Right.
circuits, and there's good days and bad days. So she was good enough to just make our lives just pure hell. So
Yeah.
so we had the trust and the will and the powers of attorney and everything, but we could not legally remove her from her house. And she was adamant about staying in her house. And so I hired an elder law attorney, and I didn't find this out until kind of the last hour, and we didn't do it. But then you can do guardianship, and guardianship takes 6 months and $10,000 to get to do. Yeah, I mean, this was California. So luckily, not luckily, she ended up escaping in the middle of the night. It's a long story. And then we ended up
Yeah.
in the ER, and then and then she ended up in behavioral health. And so that was our like lucky break, but I was so close
Yeah.
to doing
Because that would be the
guardians.
route back in. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
that was,
gosh.
yeah. So, yeah. So it gets, there's guardianship, and then there's conservatorship, which is over the finances. But again, then if you do that, if you take the time and expense to do that, but then you're beholden to annual reporting and scrutiny and documents, and it's a long.
If you get guardianship, then suddenly the courts will begin to require that you report to them how that care is going, which is good because we don't want people just turned over to other people and then I guess no
Well,
oversight
I
on
mean,
it.
it's
I
a
don't know.
fine balance between fraud and care. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand it. There's a lot of tricky fraudsters out there, so they have to be careful, but there's
Yeah.
just so many caveats to everything.
Yeah. And you said earlier, and I wondered, you may not know the answer to this, but I'll ask because, hey, what if you do? You said definitely get the power of attorney and the medical power of attorney. And if there are other legal holdings, et cetera, make sure that, your name is on all the documents and that you're able to use them. But when you initially said it, you said, make sure you go to your state and get the thing. What if a lot of us don't live in the same state as our parents? Do you need it in the state they are or in the state you are?
Where they are. Yes, where they are.
Okay.
Yes, and you need
Okay.
an elder law attorney or an estate attorney, and because the state laws are very different with the way they handle assets, and not everybody has to have a trust, but you want to have a will and or a trust, and again, it's up to talking to a real live lawyer to figure this stuff out, and it's not necessarily cheap, but if you don't do this and you don't talk to someone who knows how to create these documents, then when your parent passes and you have to go through probate law, then it can get really sticky
Yeah. Or
and
that you
expensive.
even have to go through probate.
Well, you
Right.
have to go through
Right.
probate no matter what, pretty much everywhere, unless you have a trust. Again, this is all legalese
Right.
that should be left to the experts, and I am not.
Absolutely. And you and I are not claiming to be experts, but we both have had friends who have dealt with those types of issues. I have a friend who had to take guardianship because her dad was, and this might serve someone who's listening. Her dad was a medic, so he was very familiar with all things medical, and his plan was that he was going to hang on to it until he couldn't and then give it to her. The twist here is that he went downhill very quickly and did not realize And then none of the documents were where they should be. She had to go to the state, get guardianship, which became, she was already doing so much work. And just what you said, it put a whole nother layer on it. And that wasn't his intent.
Well, my favorite quote is, "It seems too soon until it's too late," which is
Yeah.
everybody waits for a crisis. I mean, they're like, "Oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it." And there's so many horror stories of people taking over and the one guy was in New York and his dad was in Florida and they had all the documents in place. But guess what? This lady friend moves in, unbeknownst to the son, they go to a new lawyer and have new documents made, making her the beneficiary. And, so it's good to get
There's
eyes
a lot.
on. If you can get eyes on, I was just in Iowa again visiting my dad, and it's hard, but make the time to get eyes on, because then you find out a lot. You can find out if there's food rotting in the fridge, if there was mold in my dad's toilet. I'm like, okay, Dad, maybe we should. He's not a cleaner, right? So just all the eyes on stuff make a huge difference.
Yeah. I think that's everything, is just to get yourself to where you can see. And I like what you said, because I think that need to think, well, it's not really a problem. Am I making this up? Am I imagining? Am I making this a big deal when it shouldn't be? I read something the other day that said people get diagnosed like years later than they should,
Yeah.
because nobody wants that problem, right?
Right.
So
And and we also talk about caregiver creep. So those of us that do live close, it's, oh, I'm just going to throw in a load of laundry. I'm just going to bring over dinner. I'm just going to pick up the prescriptions. But then it gets more and more and more, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything. Or
yeah.
mom or dad is covering for the other one. So that happens a lot. Just
Yes.
the Gene Hackman story. Remember
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. With
So
the wife. Yeah.
yeah, so that happens, because the one is covering for the other one. And plus, caregiving is so taxing that a lot of the people that are caregiving end up getting sick or chronic or
Mm,
die before the person with
yeah.
dementia. So it's every case is a little bit different, but a lot of people wait until there's crisis or imminent crisis. It's just human nature, unfortunately.
Yeah. To move into that. If nothing else, I hope that we encourage people who are listening to this, all the women who are listening, to not doubt your gut,
Your gut.
to be brave and respectfully. The women who are in this audience are very respectful by and large. So if they're asking someone questions, I know that they will ask respectfully and kindly. That's the best you can do. And it's okay to ask a question that's not well timed, or that doesn't get you an answer that everybody wanted. It's okay, because it's not going to ruin anything that waiting a long time and then waiting into the crisis was going to buy you anyway.
Well, it's still kind of taboo. Nobody wants to talk about. I talk about it all the time, and so I bring it
Good.
up all the time. And then literally, oh yeah, my grandma, my mom, my dad. I bring it up, and then you throw a rock and you'll hit a caregiver. I mean, they're everywhere. But some people, I guess, I understand, are more reluctant to talk about it. And if my mom has it, does that mean I'm going to get it? But the most of the research right now says 45% of dementia is preventable through lifestyle. So it's all the stuff we're supposed to do: eat right, sleep well,
Move.
exercise, manage your stress, have your social connections. So we all know what we're supposed to do, but making time to do all that is, and that's the rub, right? So
Yeah. 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 And I think about, um, I think about how hard it is for the friends that I know who've been doing it, doing caregiving. And I have to tell you something sort of sweet. I have a friend who, she had knee surgery, and during recovery, she was telling her husband, he was just a wonderful caretaker. And he stops and he says, because he's, a good guy and very funny, and he goes, "I'm not a caretaker, I'm a caregiver."
I love it.
So whenever we say caretaker or caregiver, my brain goes to that. I love that thought. I think that people can see that caregiving it takes a lot out of people, but I'm not sure that we realize, those of us who aren't doing it, we realize how invasive into how many areas of life get impacted, because such a significant portion of your life goes to managing another adult's life also.
Absolutely. And it was funny. I was at this residential assisted living conference where, so there's a lot of, so you've got memory care, assisted living, independent living, but now there's residential group homes of assisted living where it's like it's a neighborhood home, depending on the licensing. And so one of the women that at this conference, she owns one of these or a couple of these homes. And she's like, well, I was complaining about the Medicare selection and my mom and stuff. And she's like, well, if she's in memory care, then you're not really a caregiver. And I was like, I just about lost it. It's like, do you know
That woman is
how
lucky
much?
she's still standing.
Oh, I mean, yeah. You have, I mean, she has no idea how much. So I'm over at my mom's several times a week, but I also am, again, the Medicare selection thing every year just freaks me out. You know, am I going to
Yeah.
make the right decision? Is her health going to change? Is the plan going to cover it? Like all this worry, worry, worry. And then on top of that, her managing her meds, and then she started a new med, and we had to play with that, and then it affects her appetite, and then it affects her weight, and then it affects her sleep, and then I mean, she's in memory care, and they're caring for her, but I'm still worrying about her, and I go visit her, and
Right.
you know, it's not, you know, and then I got the kids on the other side so I said the parents, their brain is deteriorating, and so they're not making good decisions. And then the teenagers, their brains aren't fully developed and they think they're invincible. So I've just got, you know, it's just a crazy town with worry. Who's gonna make a, you know, just a crazy move
The
next?
next
Yeah.
great decision. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of feel like you enter that space of life where so many times you find yourself saying, "You did what? Why?" You know, oh my
Well,
goodness, why? You know, though, we have hit on two things. Actually, let me back up and do this first. One of the things is that I've recently been studying more about dementia so that I can integrate it into how I support people at end of life. And the biggest thing that I realized up front is that they showed us the CAT scan images of brains before dementia and then after. And I was stunned at the holes that become made in the brain with onset of dementia. Obviously, where the holes are depends on the type of dementia that you get and the degree of impairment, and the areas of impairment also depend on what part of that brain wasted away. And that was my largest takeaway, is that I don't think I understood that dementia is a brain wasting disease. It literally makes that part of the brain go away. And so if that was being able to logically follow something, that's one kind of impairment. If that was the part of the brain that translates that that is a phone and not a remote, or the part of the brain that managed that's your mother, not your grandchild, right? That how many different systems can be impacted, and the speed of which, but it's all because those parts of the brain are quite literally shrinking and going away.
absolutely. Yeah, it's confusing. So there's, I think, over 100 types of dementia, but there's 9 that are the most common. And Alzheimer's is the buildup of these plaques and tangles, which affects the
Right.
brain. And then the aphasia affects your speech and your language and your reading and your writing. And then the other part of it, so certain parts of the brain are dying, but also the neurons and the connection and the electricity
Right.
of the brain isn't as efficient. So I mean, there's all kind. And then I think the most of the neuroscientists are saying that a lot of people have what they call mixed dementia. So you could have a couple of different kinds going on. So I mean, it's all of it's bad and it's degenerative. But
Right.
if you catch it early enough, then there are some, you know, drugs out there that can help delay it a little bit. There's been nothing earth shattering as far as I'm concerned, because there's still all these risks and everything. But early detection can help you make a plan before everything goes haywire. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to get a diagnosis. But the other thing to know is a lot of primary care physicians don't know much about dementia, and they'll just slough it off to depression, midlife crisis, lack of purpose, and because they have a lot on their plate. And so it's important to get a true diagnosis from a qualified physician who knows. And the biggest telltale factor is if you know your person. So with my mom, we saw the signs
I
in
love
hindsight.
that.
We saw the signs leading up, but we just called them "that's weird" moments. That's weird. That's weird, but okay, whatever.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so and you're like you said, your gut. If behavior is different, the speech is different. If the memory, it's not all just memory loss. It can be anything that you like. That's off. So it's like either your
Yeah.
coworkers, your neighbors, your kids. You're the ones that figure this out first, and so
Oh,
investigate.
wow. Yeah. Also change in temperament. Like someone was
Yes.
always pleasant and now
Yep.
they're crabby a lot or
Yep.
they're angry.
Yep.
That can be a tip.
Or the
One of the
opposite.
things, oh, or the opposite. Thank
Yep.
you. And not interacting as much, just sitting while the rest of the conversation goes on around them. That's a little more advanced. But one of the things that kind of struck me in learning about it is that because people wait, they are further progressed. Whoever, whether it's themselves or their person, is further progressed in it. What I learned is that currently the only drugs that work for max 6 months. They do not reverse. There's no drug at this time that can reverse dementia. So waiting to admit it is going further down the trail that you cannot go back up. But also the way that these drugs, if they have any efficacy, work. And again, I'm not a medical person, but this is what I was recently taught, is that while they can't back it up, they can sort of sometimes stabilize or freeze you at the point that you're at for a max of 6 months. And I think that's horrifying and terrible to talk about and all the things. And I don't want to scare anybody, but I do want to say if you think there is a problem, you must push because time is not on your side in this matter.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and it's hard because you're living your busy life and your parents and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And again, these conversations are tough to have. You have to have
Yeah.
these conversations and you can't just bring it up at the Christmas dinner. Be like, hey, let's talk about death and dying and dementia. And then
What do
people
you
get
think about
defensive.
dementia?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too that people don't realize, and my mom was very good at this, if they know they're being evaluated, they can bring it together. Your mind goes into high gear and I had a psychiatrist from the hospital call me like, what do you mean? What's wrong with your mother? She's fine. I'm like, she's not fine. So I
She's
had to
so not
fax the
fine.
letters. And so because they can really, and my mom is feisty, so they can bring it all together and just be like, everything's A-okay if they know that there's like an evaluation on the line. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, and there's good patient syndrome or whatever they call it, where when the doctor's asking you questions, you want to please the doctor. We were all raised, I think the new generations are slightly different,
yeah.
but we were all raised that you please the role, the person in authority, and a physician
Mm-hmm.
or a nurse is in authority, and you want to give them your best answer.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they're trying to hide the problem or not, it can happen.
Absolutely. And now everybody just uses Dr. Google, so they've they can look anything. But it is so hard. But there are resources out there, and but it's hard to find the right ones. But I mean, don't be afraid to talk about it, and find a way to bring up these conversations. You could say, "Oh, hey, I listened to this podcast, and they were talking about aging parents or parents." And there's all this ageism talk out there.
Mm,
You can't use the word ageism, but aging. And I'm like, well, how is he going to define it? I mean, we're all aging every day, and the stuff is happening. So just figure out a way to calmly and not accusatory, but say, hey, I want us to have the best relationship as we continue. What can we talk about? What can we do together? There's, my friend just had a mother diagnosed with dementia or had a fall, or, you're going to get the
mm.
call. You're going to get the call. It just depends on whether you're ready or not.
Yeah. Well, and I think the more that you can possibly steel yourself for there how on earth could anyone talk about their own dementia and their own loss of capabilities without there being grief? And if that person leans toward anger, there probably will be anger. And if they lean towards passive aggressive, expressions of it, then you're likely to see that. But you have to, as the child, it would behoove you certainly to be able to be prepared that this will not be a pleasant discussion initially, and to be prepared to hit resistance with love, but determination, because in the end, they'll slide off and you're on the hook, you know?
Yeah, and from surveys that I've read, most older adults they want two things. They don't want to be a burden to their kids, and they want to
Right.
leave them a little money. So if you don't plan, both of those things go out the window immediately. Immediately. So if you
Yeah.
can bring up an article or a study or a friend or a podcast and just say, hey, and plus there's all these great options for aging. I mean, the baby boomers are pushing the envelope, and there's all kinds of different services and communities. So you really have a lot of options, but you have to figure out where you want to be, what can you afford, and what kind of care do you want? Do you want to move with your
Yeah.
kids? Do they want to move in with you? Do you want to go into a community like in urban, rural? There's a lot to unpack, but you have to start the conversation somewhere out of love
Yeah.
and concern. And because there's the other thing, Oprah just launched this podcast episode about the no contact, low contact.
Yes.
Oh
Just
gosh,
watched it.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, part of what they were talking about is because this generation doesn't honor they honor relationship and not the role. So a lot
Right.
of us just expected we take care of our parents and then our kids take care of us. But that is not the case. So we need to be mindful of that in our own aging. But when we deal with our parents, be mindful of how it is for them, that they are very role dependent, and that was part of the society and the times in which they were raised. And part of loving them or caring for them is respecting how that fits together,
Exactly.
and yet also knowing you can't die on that hill.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it starts with conversations and
Mm,
going a little bit farther each time, or going where they want to go first. Like because sometimes it's the parents that don't want to talk about it. Sometimes it's the kids, but just
yeah.
finding a common ground, something where you just say, hey, will it be maybe something happened to their neighbor or their friend? I mean, again, it's in the paper all the time, it's on the news, it's in the podcast. And there's also websites that help you, the conversationproject.org, deathoverdinner.org, or the death deck. So there's all these resources out there to help you, the 5 wishes. So there's definitely some really good resources if you want to kind of do your research first and then approach it gingerly.
Yes, and I love that you talked about the deathdeck.com. That's like a card deck with questions, and you can use it at social events or just between people to ask questions that sometimes are hard or sometimes you wouldn't think of, and they're all about what you would like for end of life or how you think about it. But those kinds of issues being brought up and indeed I would say normalized really help caregivers get some control earlier on, because you will end up with the control, but what will be the collateral if you wait too long?
Yeah, no, it's hard.
That's
Yeah. And they have a dementia deck now too. They have an end of life deck and a dementia deck as well as the death deck. Yeah, they have all three.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
a
And
whole
that's
set.
death deck, thedeathdeck.com, but you can also find the dementia deck there. And then you talked about death over dinner. I think it's deathoverdinner.org.
I think so. I read his book,
You
the
can,
guy that
yeah,
founded it.
you
Yeah.
can go to the website and you can download everything you need to host an evening where you have dinner with whoever you invite, and it's guided. They tell you what you can talk about. And there is a dementia deck for that. I just studied it recently. So that's a beautiful suggestion. These are all ideas for if you think it might be in your possibilities of your future. And normalizing being able to talk about death and about dying and about end of life and what people want, super important for healthy aging for you or for them. One thing we're talking about lots, we're ping-ponging about through lots of different issues, and I hope that you who are listening are gaining lots of different pieces of information. I will give you contact information for Nicole at the end of this so that you can directly ask your questions, or you can let me know, of course. But one of the things that you had advocated for, I read somewhere where you said we were blindsided by mom's dementia and what that meant from a legal, medical, financial, and logistical perspective. So I got busy building a team to figure it out from 3,000 miles away. I became a cross country caregiver before I knew anything about the many dimensions of dementia. Medicare does not pay for long term care. And in that, you at some point later in a statement you bounced off talking about ADLs, and that's really important, and it's a term that's bantered around. Help our listeners understand what are ADLs and why is it important to know about them.
Right. So ADL stands for activities of daily living. And so those are grooming, dressing, eating, transferring, toileting, dressing, like they kind of morph around, but I think there's 5 or 6 official ADLs. And
ADLs.
yeah, and then there's IADLs, which are instrumental activities of daily living, which are more like shopping, managing your finances, cooking, navigating. So the IADLs, the instrumental activities of daily living, can sometimes be the trigger that piques your radar that something might be off. Are there bills arriving that things have not been paid? Did someone, put popcorn in the microwave for 20 minutes? Is the stove left on? So all that stuff is kind of like early warning signs that something might be off. But then
Yeah.
the activities of daily living, whether you have dementia or not, you could have any kind of physical ailment that prevents you from getting up and transferring and going to the bathroom yourself. Those are the critical factors as to whether you qualify for. There's home care and home health, and again, getting into the weeds with all the Medicare and the payment, but activities of daily living are one of the key factors in determining what kind of help you can get. And you have to be able to not do 2 or 3 of them to qualify for X number of hours of help. And it requires physicians to sign off. And a lot of times those metrics are used after someone falls and goes to the hospital and then goes to rehab and then has home
Yeah.
care. So again, it can get really out of whack quickly, but Medicare will pay for all the super medical surgeries and any kind of falls and any kind, but then you have to
The
qualify
medical.
the medical stuff. So yeah, but dementia, I mean, it's a condition of the brain, but it's very long, it's very expensive. So that's why it's not, I mean, it's not covered. No, long-term care is not covered. Like all of the
Right.
Medicare stuff has a limit of this number of days and this number of days and this number of hours. So it's not a free for all for, so what a lot
So
of
if you can possibly afford it, remember long-term care
Well,
insurance can be
it's so expensive. If you can get it, if you decide to get it, if you're like 50, 60, you want to get it if you can get it, but it's expensive. It's so expensive nowadays. So
yeah.
the better part
Yeah.
is I would invest in taking care of your health, like eating better, exercising, because
Love that.
you can change all that. So get a personal trainer or
Yeah.
whatever, get an accountability buddy at the gym or do some, but
Focus where you have control and lean into that. What you're saying in that is really beautiful. We did talk earlier about if your person needs to go live in care, and you mentioned the 3 types of care. Do you want to break those down for folks so that they can learn about it?
Well, sure. So there's independent living where you move in and you're independent. You have your own apartment. It's kind of in a community,
Small kitchen,
small
perhaps.
kitchen, correct. And then you have meals, and a lot of these places are big buildings where they have all 3. So they have the independent living, and then they have assisted living, which is you need help with some of your ADLs or your meds or different things, but you're still you're on your own freedom wise. And then the memory care is typically a locked unit to prevent people from wandering, but there's a lot more care that goes on in there, and that's when people are, they have this meals together and they have activities, and there's also kind of a fine line between assisted living and memory care depending on the community and the care, and people are like, no, 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 I don't want my mom to go to memory care. I want her to stay in assisted living because I want to believe that she's still okay. And maybe she is, but she's just one fall away from memory care. Or someone in assisted living is trying to keep it together cognitively, even though they're challenged and they just don't want to make that move. So there's so much gray area in all of this. And so I hope I'm not confusing and upsetting everyone, but it is manageable, but you have to make a plan and find some resources and talk about it. So so those are the three, and then there's different options, but they're all expensive. And the only way some people pay for it is they get a lawyer and they spend down to Medicaid, and then they're on Medicaid.
Yeah. In something that you're saying, I'm thinking about that. One thing I do know, because having recently studied memory care that I was not aware of, is yes, locked facilities, they're providing greater protection and care for people who may not understand they cannot go out. But one of the things that they often do in memory care, which I didn't understand, is they approach self-care a little bit differently, because showers and baths can be daunting for a variety of reasons. One is certain types of dementia have extreme sensitivity, and the water touching them is distressing in a way that it may not have been previous in their life. Or sometimes that sensitivity is the sound of the shower is upsetting. Sometimes it's privacy. Somebody else is near my body. And I have always been a private person. So then baths and things are upsetting. We're talking when someone's in fairly profound dementia. But also, this was a surprise to me. A lot of times, the memory care units are also doing the days in small blocks, because it's easier for a person with dementia to just do the small block than a chunk of things at one time. Some types of dementia don't just forget, but the impact shows up in executive function. So
Right.
if I said, "Hey, Dad, get dressed, and oh, don't forget the blue pants, and then you've got to wash your hands too, and then put your shoes on. I'll meet you at the front door." There's some types of dementia and certain places in the dementia struggle where you just set both of you up for disaster, because that's too much. Can
Right.
you put your blue pants on, then, which requires a lot more of the caregiver, but it's going to get a more successful result, because the ability to do a string of things isn't so good anymore. And memory care also supports that understanding. And what's the sundowners? Um,
Sundown, yeah, and they refer to what you're talking about as queuing. So various levels of queuing. So they use the example often of brushing your teeth. Seems like a simple fact or a simple task, but you have to unscrew the tube of toothpaste, put the toothpaste on. I
yes,
mean, so every decision that we make automatically 100 times a day is broken down and not as automatic for them anymore. And so and
right.
then if you're a caregiver and you're trying to get to the doctor or trying to get out, you're like, rush, 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 let's do this, so you're frustrated, they're frustrated, and you're trying to rush it, so you have to leave a lot of extra time and break it down into steps, and also approach them differently, use a calm voice. So Teepa Snow is the queen of all of that.
Teepa Snow is the queen.
Yeah.
Teepasnow. Teepa Snow. I will actually put her information in the notes. Teepa Snow is lovely, and she's all over YouTube. If you are in this trenches, or you've just begun this journey and you're looking for some information, God bless you, Nicole, because that's a great resource.
I got to meet her
That's
a couple weeks
wonderful.
ago. I was at a conference, so I got to meet her. She's lovely, just lovely.
I'm fangirling. I think
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah. No.
Very cool. One thing, and I'm in a minute, I'll ask you for any final things that you think would help people who are looking down the barrel of this, or who are in the thick of it. But one thing that strikes me that I see, I don't have a parent with dementia, but as I watch my girlfriends, the part that just gets my heart, I guess, is seeing how there's so many practical things that need to be done. I have one girlfriend who told me the other day, I literally have 14 different doctors that I am keeping up with for my parents, to try to keep up with their care because they do have comorbidities on board. And she goes, we never go to a doctor's appointment and it's, oh, you're better. Nope, we'll be back. And that test wasn't passed. So now we're going to, mess with this medicine and all the things. And the balancing all of that with then trying to connect with your person in a way that's respectful of where they are, because there's no intention to dementia. Even if they're acting what you perceive to be a naughty small child, that's largely about parts of the brain that have been eroded that help them behave better earlier in life. So even that is not entirely their fault. And I was listening to a woman the other day, and she was talking about how across QR, she's helping manage her dad's care from across the country. And she told him something he needed to do. And he said, no, that's not right. And she said, yes, it is. And she goes, why did I need to argue with him? But I did, because I was trying to make sure he understood, and he just got madder and badder. And he kept telling me I didn't know and stop, trying to correct him. And she said, he felt terrible. I felt terrible. I got off the phone and I sobbed. And I thought, why did I have to push it? And then it dawned on me, but this just makes me cry. If he could remember, it means he's not as bad off as we're both afraid that he is. So to me, that speaks to the grief that's at the kernel, the heart of, you're not just caregiving, you're caregiving and losing your parents at one time. And there's got to be, for both of you, as long as they can remember, there may come a point when for them that's not a burden any longer, but it will be for you.
Right.
And to have you any counsel or advice about that for somebody who is in it or who is scared about that part?
Yeah, I cry in the car. I mean, it's crying is okay. But you've got to build your team and find your people, because you are not alone. That's the one thing. Everybody thinks they're alone in caregiving, and you're not. There's 50, 60 million people caregiving. You are not alone. So
You're not alone.
so that's why we talked about daughterhood.org has free circles where people just go, you just log in. You don't have to turn on your camera. You don't have to turn on your microphone. You can just listen, but people cry and vent and share. And then different people in different stages of the journey will say, well, this worked for me, or try this. And then there's definitely a thing called ambiguous loss, where anticipatory grief, where so this is coming. And I mean, I just definitely have moments with my mom, but literally I think I have just been spread so thin that I just am on to the next. I call it caregiving whack-a-mole. I'm on to the next thing. And then, but we've had a lot of fun. I took her out, or I take her out, or we go places. But now with her, as she's progressing, she's got more word salads, I call them. And she isn't quite as mobile. So I don't want to take her as far. And then with my stepmom, she has a lot of incontinence issues. So you don't really want to be out and about if you've got that going on. So it's just get ready. It's a plateau and a decline, and a plateau and a decline. And it is degenerative. So it's a hard thing, but you're not alone. So you've just got to figure out, find your people, and bring your people around you to help you navigate this, because it is what it is. So
yeah. So daughterhood.org is a national group, which
online. Yeah.
It's free. It's online, daughterhood.org. Please look it up, seek them out, say Nicole sent you.
Yeah.
And it's not just for daughters. Correct.
It's for caregiver. It's for anyone who just wants some camaraderie and some support. So it's for
been around for 10 years.
Yep. Sons.
You had shared with me earlier about the daughterhood part. Tell me that.
Yeah. So you had your childhood friends, you had your motherhood friends, and now you have your daughterhood friends, right? So But there also are a ton of, I know, right?
That's making me cry too.
I know. But there are also a ton of only children on there and ton of people
Yes.
that are only children or that don't have children. So I mean, definitely everyone is welcome. If you want to talk about it or if you want to cry, or if you just want to listen, everyone was welcome. Daughterhood.org. And there's other Hilarity for Charity is another one, which is Seth Rogen and his wife started. And then Lisa's
Great name.
yeah, no, it's great. They're big time. So they got all kinds of there's a lot of resources out there, but again, it's the hard part is digging through and finding those because you're in the middle of caregiving and it's all consumed.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love this. I also love that we have AI now and you can put in your handy browser or in your chat GPT or Genesis or Grok, whatever you vibe on the AI thing. These, I am trying to find resources to help me. I'm in the my parent is in the early stages of dementia. I feel so alone. I don't know the next 5 things to do. Make me a list. And you might be so surprised at what that can help you. Begin to use your resources. And remember, you are not alone. This is part of what I'm taking for you, that we are not alone, that we can reach out. And what about, on a final thing, one of the things that I deeply regret is that when my friend I talked about earlier, when her parents were going through the worst of their dementia, because she's older than us, we didn't realize how hard it is to be a caregiver, and we were not there for her to the degree that we certainly would have been now. What can we know if we're watching other people in our life caregiving? What should we know, or what could we do? How could we help a sister?
Yeah, well, for what I always tell caregivers too is cut yourself some slack. Just first of all, cut yourself some slack because there's plenty of guilt to go around. Mom guilt, daughter guilt, friend guilt. Women, we're good at guilt, right?
Amen.
So I would say if you really want to help and you really are intent on helping, then say something specific. Because if you just say to a caregiver, how can I help? Then it's the onus is on them is to figure out something. So if you say, can I bring you a meal? Can I take the kids in carpool? Can I pick up the prescription at the pharmacy? Can I do some laundry for you? Can I take the dog for a walk? Or can I, if you're comfortable, can I sit with your person while you take the dog for a walk?
Yeah, respite.
Yeah,
It's so helpful.
Yeah, it's so hard. But I have another good resources, and I was terrified of AI, but it's called thesandwichclub.com. And it's AI, and I've put a bunch of questions in there, and I've also answered questions, and a lot of people are. And they also have caregiver, what are they called? They have like caregiver registries. So you know how you do like a wedding registry? You can go in there and create a caregiver registry, and then people can send you stuff.
Oh, wow.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's not forget the value of a handwritten card out of nowhere in your mailbox that just says, I know you're going through it and I care about you.
Yeah. Or you can drop flowers on the doorstep or,
love it.
Just,
bottle of wine, whatever it takes. Yeah.
And the other thing I tell people is the angel might come from somewhere you don't expect. It might not be the neighbor or the friend, but it's like some random person you met at church that comes in and takes over and makes your life 100% easier. Like you don't know where it's going to come from, but if you send it out in the universe and say, hey, I need help, I have confidence that it will come.
I love that. I love that. And I think it is true that when you say, I am willing to receive help, even if it doesn't come in the form that I expect it.
Right.
I will be open to further blessing, that you have made a space that your person would have been very proud that you're standing in if they could understand it. This is wonderful. Nicole, you have so much wisdom on this, and I have wandered us all through lots of different pastures, and I appreciate your patience and your wisdom and your expertise to share from not just your life experience, which in this case is super powerful, but also what you've taken the time to learn and to understand. Your book is excellent, Diagnosis Dementia by Nicole Smith, but you can also find it on Amazon, of course, or Barnes and Noble, where you buy books. But njsmithbooks.com is the website. where they can find the book and also find out more about you. Do you speak to groups? Is that part of what you're able to offer at this time?
Oh yeah, yeah. I speak to book clubs and church groups, and I'm in Tucson, Arizona, so there's a lot of seniors here. So I'm speaking to different groups around here, and I speak at elder care communities. Yeah, so I love it. I love sharing what I know, and I'm always learning more because I go to conferences. So I'm happy to, if someone wants to email me, hello@njsmithbooks.com. And I'm writing my second book about the sandwich generation. So get ready for that
Oh, I
one.
love that. And nobody would know three parents and five kids. Nobody would know sandwich generation better than you, Nicole.
Yeah, but
Wow.
I don't try to do it all. I build a team. I'm not too proud to ask for help. I ask for help
I
all the
love
time.
this. And I think we're kind of at a point in life where you've just hit a key. It's powerful. And I hope everybody takes away the power of that. Nicole, thank you. In a big way, thank you, because your advocacy, first of all, in your family of origin is admirable and it's beautiful. And my love to you as you go through this journey, but also your advocacy in the world, because normalizing these conversations and getting this information out, the boomers are hitting this phase right now. They're the largest generation in a long darn time. Here before too long, we're going to have more people over 65 than 18 and under, which is the first time in the history of the US. So the need for this is extraordinary. And your service in this sector is such a blessing. And I just want you, oh, I'm going to cry. I just want you to know I'm rooting for you, baby. Keep going.
No,
Keep going because you're doing the good work.
no, I appreciate you sharing my story and all that you do because being a doula and on hospice, that's not easy stuff.
Yeah, it's but like you do. I think we both see where if you can help somebody else, that's the best way to redeem anything, right? And the best way to feel that you've provided meaning in life. And I really appreciate you with us today. I will have all of Nicole Smith's information on the page. Scott, you have to fix that because I can't remember what it's called, but all of her information will be posted for you to easily access. And I hope that you will look her up, make contact with her. She can also be found on LinkedIn, Nicole Smith. Are you on Facebook?
Instagram, I'm at Dementia Book Review because I've read about 55 books on dementia and I kind of do little reviews on all of them.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's a wonderful resource. So please look Nicole Smith up because I guarantee you will be glad you did it. Just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Okay, so
Yeah.
this will end up, it will not go further in the thing, but oh, Nicole, you gave a lot of really good information. Technically and personally, you did a nice balance of those two things, and that's what I appreciate.
Well, no, yeah, I'm the queen of segue, so I'm glad.
Me too.
Hopefully, right now, no, I am, but I don't want to overwhelm people because I get so excited and I start talking. So I don't want to. I mean, hopefully people aren't scared.
No,
Like,
I think you did good. Don't feel like you did not on this because I think that you did. I think that part of what is good about somebody listening to this is if you're in the thick of it, they could follow different things easily because they'll already know the rhythm and the terms and the ideas. But if you're not, what I liked about the way that this interview unfolded is that you can tell that there's a ton of stuff that's very Byzantine, blinding alleyways here, um, that you need to be aware of. That for me, if I were listening to this, my largest takeaway would be I better not stick my head in the sand because there's a lot here that I'm going to need to know. And you did such a good job with that. And your encouragement is so aligned with what my friend told me literally as I was driving here. She said, ask her how you don't end up doing what I did, which is just putting out fire after fire. And you're saying build a community. And I love that. I
Right. No,
love
that's
that.
good. Well, I mean, because we're all, like I said, we're all so good at just guilting ourselves and trying to do it all ourselves and be everything and everywhere to everyone. And
And you
it's not
can't.
sustainable.
No, no, not at the level. There's just modern life is too complex to try to just. It's enough to manage your own life, and then you got kids, and then another adult. Yeah, you're right, and I appreciate it. I hope that you I hope that you have confidence that this was a good investment of your time because I feel
Oh
like
no,
it will
I
be.
love doing these, but like I said, I just freaked out at the legalese, but I
Yeah.
love doing the podcast. But I just feel like I always talk so fast and people are like, oh my God.
No, 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 no. But the same thing. I talk fast also, but I think what you have to say is really important. If depending on the feedback I get and how my scheduling is going, I've got about 26 episodes in the can right now. So
Nice.
this will probably come out in early March, I think.
I think
It might be mid February, but it's going to be February, March because we're
August.
we've got a lot in. But after that happens, I may circle back around to you and say, "Hey, can we do this again?" And I'll tell you the specifics that we should hit this time,
Sure.
if that would work for you.
No, like I
Okay?
said, I love doing it and anything's good. So yeah, and the do I don't even know how I'm going to react when everybody does die eventually. I mean, that's a whole other